Okay, so let's come back to the continent. And beginning today and for the next 4 days, Rwanda will host the general meeting for the World Academy of Sciences, bringing together over 300 participants from over 50 countries. It is a global organization whose mission is to advance science in developing countries to support sustainable prosperity through research, education, policy and diplomacy. Delegates at the meeting include science ministers and other high-level policymakers from across the world, prominent researchers and leaders from science associations, funding agencies and non-governmental organizations. The meeting was opened by Rwanda President Paul Kagame earlier today. So let's talk a little bit more about that report with our reporter in Kigali, Eugene Anangwe, who joins us now via Skype from Kigali, Rwanda. Eugene, it's good to talk to you. We haven't done this in a while, so this should be interesting. So the first question is, why Rwanda? This is a huge conversation about science and how it can be used to foster development. Why Rwanda?
Right, Yvonne, indeed, as you say it correctly, it's been a long while, and of course, it's great to be with you right here on Worldview. Now, back to your question, why Rwanda? Rwanda has been touted as one of the best countries around the region when it comes to, integrating ICTs in its agenda. Rwanda is a country that also, under its vision 2020, is actually planning to be an ICT hub for the region. The entire country, the whole of the country is actually connected to fiber optic cable. And of course, this already puts Rwanda up there when it comes to ICT matters. So the organizers of this particular event really deemed it very, relevant that Rwanda does, host this particular event so that it also acts as a role model so that when delegates come here, they're able to see firsthand the kind of development that Rwanda has put in place when it comes to, embracing ICT. We have buses moving to Kigali, which are, equipped with free Wi-Fi. You just drive around the buses to your location within Kigali, using free Wi-Fi. And so I think this is particularly one of the reasons why the country has been picked as the host of this particular event. Yvonne.
Yeah, I mean, and there's quite a bit that happens in Rwanda, the use of drones, also the possible, construction of a drone port we keep hearing about in Rwanda. But let's talk about, the possible outcomes, because you have these 300 participants from 50 countries. What is expected to be the outcome of this for Rwanda and for the continent at large?
Right. For Rwanda, I believe, the possible outcomes from this major event is, attracting more investors who can be able to also invest in Rwanda's ICT sector. As you just rightly said it, we now have investors in the drone port that was just launched a few weeks ago. Now, for the entire continent, I believe that this is going to be one of those, learning processes where they can be able to pick and really see firsthand the importance of incorporating ICTs in policy making, to be particular, because for a very long time, policy makers have been accused of not incorporating or using research or scientific information when they're coming up with policies. We've seen researchers coming up with information that is very vital on issues to do with climate change, on issues to do with environmental degradation, and advising people to move out of certain endangered places. But we've seen politicians and policymakers not heeding this particular call. So I believe that from this meeting, we will be able to have policymakers learning and scientists also understanding that there is a role that they must play in informing the agendas of policymakers when it comes to advisory advice and stuff to do with making sure that whatever policies that are made are actually scientifically looked into.
All right. Finally, what sort of tone did President Kagame set for this meeting? Because we understand he opened it this morning. There's always the sentiment that they come here and they give us all of this great scientific innovation, but that there's not enough technology and skills transfer, and it almost seems like we're being told what to do. But we all know President Paul Kagame isn't that sort of president. Could you tell us about the tone that he set when he was opening this scientific conference?
Right. President Kagame, while opening this conference, took that, that position of, making sure that the governments actually play their role in ensuring that the private sector actually has a conducive environment to be able to invest in these scientific projects when it comes to R&D research and education when it comes to around these particular issues. So what President Kagame said is that, and I will quote him, that governments must do their part in making the working environment conducive for private sector to get involved in scientific research and even as beneficiaries. So you sense that he doesn't want to point fingers at the scientists or the private sector, but he's actually challenging governments that you have a role to play. You need to make the environment conducive. If it is about coming up with incentives for those who are dealing in research, for them to be able to come in plenty and do their job with ease, then you need to do that. So this is the particular tone that President Kagame was setting right